Namaste, good morning to everybody. Residents of Nakanavangi, Bunivangi, Namatakitu, Nangarnangoli, and Dongyanga settlements. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Bulare, and a very good morning to you all. First of all, I'd like to thank God Almighty for giving us the strength, to be here, to be able to be here today to commission this grid extension project, bringing electricity to a lot of our people here in Dreketi. I'm very happy to be here with you. And it's good to see that you all look well this morning. Normally, sometimes I pass here just to buy some bean and peanut. I never realized that one day I'll be here to talk about commissioning the electricity that we have in this area. Providing affordable and reliable electricity supply is the heart of economic development of any country anywhere in the world. Fiji is no exception, and every Fijian deserves to share in the life-changing opportunities and the benefits that electricity can bring. Our 2013 Constitution highlights a number of key areas where we as Fiji citizens have the rights for the rights that we have. These include the right to reasonable access to transportation, the right to housing and sanitation, the right to adequate food and water, the right to health, and in the case today, the right to access to electricity. Access to affordable and reliable electricity could mean businesses that normally close its doors at sunset can now provide service to the community late in the evening. Students who had to close books early in the evening can study late into the night. Mothers who previously had limited hours to weave or sew clothes for family sustenance can now work late into the night. And similarly for dads, they can now do additional work in the family backyard late into the evening and not just drink grog. Most importantly, families in these communities can now even watch our 7 gladiators play in Las Vegas this weekend from the comfort of their homes. Let's hope they win. Ladies and gentlemen, the bottom line is that access to electricity means the difference between a dark and uncertain tomorrow and a bright, prosperous and promising future. As the minister responsible for electrification, I've had the privilege of overseeing a massive expansion of access to electric power across the country. And I pray and I give a lot of acknowledgement also to my predecessors who have held this role in the past, that have started this program under the leadership of our Prime Minister. That access to electricity includes for towns, communities, and some of our most remote maritime and deep rural pockets of Fiji. Our recent census shows we've expanded access to electricity to 96% of our population. 96% of everybody in Fiji has access to some form of electricity. This has been a remarkable and a good achievement. And nearly 80% of all the people in Fiji are now connected to our national grid. National grid means they're connected to all these EFL power lines. 80% of the people in Fiji. That means out of every 5 people, 4 of them in Fiji are connected to the EFL grid. That will include the people that we have in this area. On Friday last week, I just commissioned the electrification project from Amgali settlement in Nandi, bringing light to 26 households in that particular community. Today, I'm proud to officially open the Nakanavangi, Bunivangi, Namatakitu, Nangarningoli, and Dongyanga grid extension project this morning, or this afternoon rather. This extension, I'm informed, will directly power the lives of over 250 of our people in this area. This was a continuation of the Dreketi grid extension that government and EFL had commissioned in 2015 at a cost of $14.3 million. Ladies and gentlemen, the completion of this extension is the end result of attentive planning, a lot of strategic thinking, and a steady flow of investment from this government. Over the past 5 years, we've been given a funding of $224 million. $224 million towards the energy sector. That's a historic amount of funding. 70% of that $224 million goes to electrification for people in rural areas. People in areas like this that are away from the towns and the cities. So a lot more of this money is going to people in rural areas like yourselves. Over 25,000 Fijian households have felt the benefits of that development. But we're not resting on our laurels. In our most recent budget, we've set aside an additional $60 million to add another 6,623 households to that number, including the 57 households of your community. We think that that is money well spent to bring light to people out in the rural areas. Even though it can be very expensive for government to give money to EFL to pull these electricity poles to wherever your communities are. In some places that we go to, there's a lot of open land, and then there's money has to be paid to put the poles. But we believe that it is money well spent. You know why? Because every single person in Fiji is important. If you live in the towns and the cities, if you live in rural areas, every single one is important. And one of the targets that we have in government is to make sure that we can bring electricity to every single household in this country. That's the target that we have. Recently, I was in the news yesterday, I was reading of the leader of the opposition talking about the fact that the government has been borrowing a lot to do all of these kinds of expansion projects, investment projects. And he's saying perhaps that we're overdoing it. I don't believe we're overdoing it. Why? Because we borrow money sometimes to build roads, to build bridges, to bring out water, to bring electricity out into rural areas. It costs a lot, but we do it. Why? Because people in rural areas are just as important as people in the urban areas. It costs much more to bring water, to bring electricity to roads and people in rural areas. But this government believes that everybody is important. Everybody in this country is important. And if we give benefits to people in the towns and cities, we must make sure that we can bring it out to rural areas. It's not possible for us to do it overnight. It's going to take some time. But we have a commitment in government to make sure that happens, to put you first, to put the people of Fiji first. Ladies and gentlemen, there's only one way that such historic funding towards our infrastructure and services is possible, and that is through our growing economy. When our economy grows, the national cake also grows. So when our economy grows, a national cake, we all share growth in it and we all get a bigger slice. Under the leadership of this government, the Bainimarama government and the Fiji First government, our economy has achieved a record of 9 unbroken years of economic growth. And we're headed into the 10th straight year in 2019. That means we're headed for even greater prosperity and even greater opportunity for every Fijian. Ladies and gentlemen, this government has invested the entire 381,000 cost of this development, sparing your community from any financial contribution, as we've done away with the old practice for the benefit of our people. You know, in the past, if you're living out in a settlement and you wanted to pull the power from EFL into your settlement, the settlement had to collect 30% of the cost. 30% of the cost of putting all these poles from wherever the power is to bring to your settlement. Then government reduced it down to 10%, reduced it down to 5%. Now this government says no, government will provide it. So pulling this power, the government pays that money to EFL because you want EFL to be a viable organization. Government pays them the money to make sure that power can come to you. On top of that, for families who earn less than $30,000 a year, we'll fund 50% of your monthly electricity bill up to 100 kilowatt hours. Right? So if you have that, I think our people in our ministry, they should have the forms here. For those that do not have the forms are available. Our staff can meet you. So we want to make sure that people that have more income, I have more income, I should pay the full rate of electricity. Those that are earning less in their households, they only pay half. But there's a form that you have to fill to do that. This is the same thing that we do for water. You know, for water also. If you're getting water from Water Authority of Fiji, you fill the forms, you have that less income, you have access to that subsidy for water. Additionally, once you join EFL, you have the opportunity to become one of the owners of EFL. They give you shares in EFL. I'm also a shareholder in EFL. I think the Assistant Minister is also a shareholder. Soon as you join EFL, you also can become a shareholder in EFL. That will become automatic for you. 5% non-voting shares. All of these things are unprecedented, and they are well-orchestrated initiatives of this government to ease the burden, improve the well-being of ordinary Fijians. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'd also like to thank the chairman of the board and the management and the staff of EFL for making this project possible. This is through their good work to expand and improve our national grid, which has brought reliable electric power to a historic number of Fijians. EFL is on the front lines of empowering our people by empowering our nations. When cyclones have struck our country, the EFL team sacrificed the comfort of their homes to put in the countless hours it's taken to get power quickly back online in affected communities. And EFL is spearheading one of our most important commitments to securing a sustainable future. This is by lighting the way forward in our nationwide shift to generate 100% of our energy from clean, renewable sources by 2030. By the year 2030, we want to make sure that all the electricity that comes into your homes is not coming from burning diesel. A lot of the electricity, I think almost all the electricity is coming from diesel generators. But you know what the problem with diesel generators is? You know the big problem? Because it burns that fuel. The fuel that it burns puts carbon into the atmosphere, and that is making the whole world get hotter. The world gets hotter is going to cause a lot of problems to us. That's why we have this, you heard of this term climate change? Climate change, one of the big problems is because we're burning too much fuel. So government started, by the year 2030, we want all of our energy to come from renewable sources. The energy that God is giving us now, the sun coming down. Energy from God that we can capture and put in our homes. Energy from water, hydroelectricity. Energy from the heat that's already in the earth, geothermal energy. All of these things are things that we're going to be targeting, and that is what EFL has to do for us in this country. I know that previously many of our communities were relying on diesel generators, and now know how stressful that can be. Generators alone can't bear the energy demands of an entire community, as they are very expensive to operate and maintain. Connection to the grid brings an entirely new level of reliability and affordability. It also brings cleaner power that is much less harmful to our nature and environment and the air we breathe. Ladies and gentlemen, today you are embarking on a great journey, one that will propel the lives of your people for generations towards higher standards of living. A journey brimming with new expectations of confidence for your young people, for what the community can achieve. Your futures are bright, and I assure you that this government will be there to support your aspirations and dreams for that future, with more development, more services, and more opportunity for every family in your community. And may God bless us all.
Joining pati baru joining. Baru